So let's set up the mantra render itself. So I'm going to go over to the out area here, type mantra. There we go. Now, as I've often said, the Karma render that you might have heard about in Houdini is still very much in beta. Fairly early, I would even say. So we're going to be using mantra for the time being, or really for the foreseeable future. So go to mantra, render frame range, we got the camera, output pictures. Let's keep using the data variable, and we'll put data render, and then we'll just say, I don't have a render version number. You could put that on your control panel too. I'm just going to say, I'm just going to do it just like this. Final frame dot $f.exr. Cool. Anything else? Let's go to objects. We don't want it to just render anything that happens to be on, which is what can't on meaning with the display flag here. Like I don't want it to render the preview by accident just because it's on. Turn that off. We want to force render, whether it's on or off, anything that starts with R&DR star. Click this to see what it found, the building and the ground, which, sure. What else? Make this a little bit wider here. Under rendering, change ray tracing to physically based rendering, allow motion blur. We definitely want motion blur to feel the explosiveness of all this. Later, we might tweak some of these settings, but certainly to start with, this will be fine. In particular, I'm going to say, you know what, that's actually just fine straight up. Cool, so let's see what that looks like so far. I'm going to go to render here and click render, and let's see what we get. So that's looking pretty good. I mean, there's no real lights. It just added its own light for us. I'm actually going to go to frame 96 to have a more, a little bit more of a photogenic frame maybe to work on. Cool. So there you go. It clearly works. So I'm going to use a snapshot so we can keep track of our progress here. So what's the first thing that we want to do? Well, we want an actual light. So drop an environment light wherever on our main scene here. And this is going to it's going to get rid of that headlight. The headlight's only there because there were no other lights. This light's going to be a light that's, you know, all over the place. And as you may or may not know, if you click and hold on an area, it will focus its rendering power on that area. So we can see like an area of interest faster. So in any case, so there we go. Getting better. Take a snapshot of that. Then we might as well click clip to positive Y hemisphere because all of this is above Y equals 0. It'll just help it target where the rays are going a little bit better. Let's give it an environment map. Let's give it an actual texture to use. So click on that little document thing there. Go to HFS. You'll see these populated here already. /Houdini/pic/high dynamic range image. Try any of these. They're all interesting in their own way. I'm going to go with Lanong, which is a pretty reliable one, you know, that's built in. And obviously you can use your own that you make or download or whatever. Lanong's a nice one because it's kind of a nice, kind of even lighting that's still outside. So you can see, even compared to this, it's a little bit bluer, and there's some light coming from above still, but it's not. It's a little bit more focused than the other one, but not fully overcast day. So that's pretty good for now. I'm going to take another screenshot of this. Now, why don't we see the colors of our materials? Didn't we just spend all that time setting them up? We did. But just like the viewport couldn't see the material on the inside, Mantra also cannot see the true beauty that lies beneath the surface. So on the Mantra node, we have to say, hey, you know what? Bring all the materials along for the ride. Or I should say more accurately, it's not even that it doesn't see the references to the materials. It's just that Houdini didn't even really know to send them to Mantra, which is kind of a weird concept. But it does go back to the fact that they were hidden from the top view. All that is to say, go to Mantra, click on the Rendering tab, click on the Render tab in the Rendering tab on the Render node in the Render Output area, and go to Declare Materials, change this to Save All Materials and Shaders. Click Stop, because it's not going to work. Click Render. clicking render instead of letting it just auto update means, you know what? Throw everything out and start over again. Don't use the shortcuts to just get to the image faster. So as you'll see now we'll have our crazy material colors once it gets around to doing it. There we go. So now I got this crazy looking thing, but it's right. You know, we can see we've got the dark colors on the outside here. We've got the greens over here. I can see actually that I have light color sides here, which I may not end up liking, but let's just stick with that for now. Meaning I've marked apparently the sides of our floors as interior, which was kind of an oversight. But that's the beauty of our setup, is that we don't really need to do much to change it. In fact, let's just change it now. So I'm gonna save this picture and I'm gonna stop this. So let's go find, now we see the texture map here. Click on this circles here to go to the normal viewport we're used to. So find fractures, find the floor, and I'm gonna say, hey, material, for the outside as well as the inside, you know what, just use exterior dark for both of them. Oh well. Or actually, if we really wanted to be smart, let's go back to it using the interior and let us indeed go back to this group business here and say all of this is the outside. Cool. So it removed the primitives here, but that basically just meant, oops, that everything is outside and nothing is inside. So what we can do is we can actually just say, recache that one. Because those groups have to travel through our fracturing process. So unfortunately, we actually couldn't just use the material to change it here because I do want it to have the interior marked on the new faces that we make. Now, should we make these high-res pieces for piece version 0, version 1, and version 2? That's up to you. I mean, we're only really going to render version 2 because that's what the sim ran under. So I'm not going to bother. But let's just review our work here and see what we have. Now the outside of this is the dark color. So that hopefully is enough for all of this to trickle down and work. So let's just make sure we have this saved, render it again, and we should see this yellow area here change to purple. And sure enough, it is. See? Awesome. Way better than refracturing the entire building and hoping that it turns out the same as last time. So cool. So let's actually start taking this much closer to what we want our final version to look like. For one thing, this whole scene is pretty dark. So I'm going to say let's increase the light to 2, and that'll re-render quickly. Let's change the various colors on here. I'm going to say the ground, we'll keep the ground gray for now. So the exterior dark, what should that look like? Well, it should be dark. So I'm going to say something like this. So that's pretty dark. I ended up with it being this gray value here, or I guess it was this one, where the V was 0.05. Really all of it was 0.05. For the exterior grayness, I'm going to go with maybe, this is the fun thing, you can shop around pretty quickly and easily. So I'm going to go with 0.2. I want something that's significantly lighter than the dark one, but still be fairly dark because I want it to contrast with the interior here. That's actually a pretty cool look all on its own. It's as if it was like some weird styrofoam that broke open. I'll take a picture of that. I like that. Cool. But finally, for the interior, we'll make it extra bright. So we'll make it be this light color, like so. The ground, meanwhile, can be like this slate blue. So that's nice to help this, you know, pop and stand out from there. It's still pretty dark overall. If you don't believe me, you can always press I to inspect pixels. And just looking at this blue area here, you can see it says HS/lum. So hue and saturation and luminance. It's not very luminant. It's 0.2-ish all over the place. That's way less than half, which would be like 0.5. So I'm going to double this. And we didn't save that. That's too bad. So it's looking much nicer now. And now the luminance has crept up quite a bit to about 0.37. This isn't bad. We could probably keep it here, but it'll pop even more if I go one more. And now it's hovering at about 0.5-ish, which is what I want the kind of like mid-tone to be. You know, just so that this looks bright and nice. You don't even know how dark something is sometimes until you make it brighter. See how dark this was now? Much better. So that's looking pretty cool, certainly. Anything else we need to do here? I would say, remember we set up the rest coordinates a long time ago? Let's add some roughness to these interior surfaces. Right now they're just kind of almost white. Concrete interior, we can go to displacement, turn off true displacements. We actually don't want to do real displacement or else it'll look wrong. But do turn on enable noise displacement. This is going to do fake displacement, otherwise known as bump mapping, or even normal mapping. So we should see kind of a roughness turn on these. If it's still too bright, we'll take down the actual brightness of the material itself. But let's see what we get in these areas here. And again, these are supposed to be newly exposed interior surfaces, so it'll be nice to actually see some kind of perceived roughness anyway. You can see how long these renders are taking to start. Oh, did I do it on the wrong thing? What on earth happened there? It's kind of funny. I just clicked stop and render again and it fixed it, so whatever. Anyway, we can see the roughness on here now. If you want, you could play around with the frequency to change, you know, the roughness pattern on it. In our case, I'm gonna pause it. I'm gonna say let's make it be half as frequent, but also let's just have the surface itself be like 10% less bright. So I brought down everything by 0.5. We shouldn't need to click render here. Just little changes to materials like that should be fine for the quick re-render. Although it looks like it's redoing it anyway. Oh well. So hopefully at the end of this, it should be fine. All the materials are yours to command. You might change the roughnesses on maybe the exterior versus the interior or what have you. I don't think it's going to matter too much. But there you go. So we've added some roughness to these surfaces. Some perceived roughness anyway. Great. So that's good. Take another screenshot. Now there is one kind of little gotcha here, or there's like two gotchas. We have glass on the ground. And the glass, like here's a piece of glass, it looks like. They're all over the place, I'm sure. One thing we definitely need on the glass is it needs to have the light shine through it. So that's under opacity. And turn on fake caustics. That will allow, that means don't have a dark shadow be under glass. Also, so do caustics. That's when light focuses. That's when the light transmits through the glass and focuses on the ground. That's actually a very expensive process. So fake caustics basically just says, well, at least don't have a shadow underneath it. So turn that on for sure. And the other thing we need, referring to the glass, is if we go to like the first frame before we even break anything, you'll notice we're going to see the cracks in the glass already because it's fractured on the first frame. We don't see the fractures on the concrete because the concrete isn't see-through. But as you'll see, it'll be very noticeable.